Alright, welcome back to Shooting It Straight, and don't misunderstand the title to this video. I'm not trashing Kydex holsters. I'm just saying that I personally don't care for them, and I disagree fully with just about every video that talks about how to choose a holster. Now, you've seen a bunch of them on YouTube, right? They're everywhere. Well, I disagree with just about all of them, and we'll get into that. Now, you know that I get a lot of my video content from watching other YouTube gun videos, right? And as well from reading forums and online articles and things of that. And as I just mentioned, this video is based on just about every single video I've ever watched regarding the topic of holster selection, because I'm just sick of hearing all the bullshit put out on those videos. Now, in short, all of these holster videos over the years have a disturbing commonality, and it's very obvious. All of these YouTube holster experts, which I call them the Kydex kids, because of their obvious obsession with Kydex holsters. Well, they start off by declaring that, hey, whatever holster you choose to use is fine, but then they proceed to absolutely trash certain types and brands of holsters that are either not popular or are seen as old school, and seem to think that there is only one type of holster anyone should ever use, and it's always the same type of wonder holster in every single video. So, in short, I think it's about time for truth instead of personal preference to come out in these videos when telling someone else how to select a holster. These Kydex kids are naturally going to bash anything that is not Kydex, and you can see that in nearly all of those videos. So as usual, this channel will bring you the truths so that you can decide. I don't give a damn what kind of holster you carry. It doesn't really matter, okay? But I want to counter some of these other videos out there. I think it's safe to say that I've got a shit ton of experience carrying a pistol every single day, both on duty and off duty, for right at 40 years. The fact is, I have more time sitting on a toilet trying to squeeze out a shit than any of these Kydex kids on YouTube have just looking at holsters. So, I think I'm qualified to speak on the matter. Alright? Now, I must add, however, that due to my medical condition, I haven't been able to use a hip or waist holster for the past few years, and from the looks of things, it doesn't look like I'll ever be able to use it again. So I can only carry now in a belly band type holster. Alright, when I put this belly band on, I have to pull it up to my armpits around my chest and carry it in like a cross draw fashion. That's the only way I can carry these days. Because I can't wear a belt. Okay, I can't wear a belt, so I can't use these. I've given away all of my other holsters, so I don't have a lot of holsters to show you. Now, here's what all these amateur YouTube holster experts have in common in their videos that they make. Number one, every single one of them, and this just goes to the repetitiveness of mainstream gun channel videos these days, they all absolutely trash the Black Hawk Serpa holster, even though most of them have probably never even used one. And You know, a lot of those videos even show the same old tired range video of that brain-dead instructor who shoots himself in the leg during his draw from the Serpa holster. And naturally, they blame the holster. You know, it's not people that kill people, it's guns that kill people, right? Well, it's the same thing here. You know, it's not the instructor, it's the holster. Except it was the idiot instructor's fault that he shot himself in the leg because he failed to use the holster correctly, and he obviously failed to practice with it. Alright? Look. There is nothing at all wrong with these holsters, yet I see that it's still a trendy and popular thing for the tactical amateurs to trash them. Because, you know, I mean, whatever is the popular thing to do or say these days is exactly what these content-starved followers will do or say. Listen, I've used Serpa holsters for my Glocks and my Springfield Armory XD pistols, both of them, for many years. Many other cops that I worked with did also, even a couple of the detectives that they wore them on duty during qualifications. No one ever had a single problem with these holsters, ever. You want to know why? Well, because we knew how to fucking use them correctly. Capiche? We trained and practiced with them, the same as everyone should do with any piece of gear they carry on a daily basis, right? No one had any bullshit issue of their trigger finger magically slipping into the trigger guard. Nobody had that problem. The problem is that the lazy dumbasses of today do not want to put in the time and effort to properly train and practice. Everybody wants crutches to make things easier. Turned into a rant, didn't it? But damn it, I'm tired of hearing it. Number 2, they all absolutely trash any kind of nylon or Cordura holster, labeling every one of them across the board as cheap junk. And it never fails, they'll always display some 40-year-old worn out, cheap-ass Uncle Mike's nylon holster as proof of this. Really? That's interesting, because I carried and used one of those cheap junk nylon belt slide pancake holsters with a thumb brake retention on it many times for more than 20 years, very comfortably and without any issues whatsoever. Even used it for several years in competitive shooting matches until I was able to save up some money and get my leather Hellwig holster, which that holster was a dream. Oh my God, but it was set up for competition. Okay. But I've carried everything from a 1911 to an XDM to a Glock in that same old cheap junk nylon pancake holster. Never had a single problem with it. If I got it dirty, I simply washed it. I never got any holster wear on my guns from them. And 20 years later, it's still as good as new. In fact, my brother's using it right now. All I've ever done to it is put new thumb brake straps. The 2 straps. I put new ones on there about 8 or 9 years ago. But it's cheap junk, right? Listen, there are junk nylon holsters out there. There are junk leather holsters out there. And guess what? Yep, there are even junk Kydex holsters out there also. And plenty of them. Alright. Number 3. They all trash every kind of shoulder holster. They refer to them as old school, naturally. And of course, when you're the type of person who's easily impressed with tactical things, old school things are scoffed at. Most of them like to talk about the absolute sin of muzzling or flagging others that shoulder rigs present during a draw, or simply due to the position of the pistol itself while carrying, such as if it's carried in a horizontal position. Personally, I think that concern is absolutely a non-issue. Because they always cry, but in a horizontal position, the muzzle is pointing at people behind you. And so what? If nothing is close to the trigger, why is that a concern? When have you ever known a pistol to spontaneously fire all by itself while in a holster? How many civilians have ever been shot by the thousands of plainclothes cops carrying this way for decades? None that I can find. Drawing presents no issues either, as long as you can draw correctly, which means, again, that your finger is always outside of the trigger guard. So please stop with your paranoid bullshit about that. When I'm about to get into Mortal Kombat, having my muzzle flag my arm or flag someone's leg for 1/16 of a second is not a concern to me. I'll take my chances. And number 4, speaking of old school holsters, the popular thought these days are that leather holsters are old school as well, and as such, makes them not very cool. Except that old school leather holsters have been around and used far longer than any other holster, and has been proven to work just fine for cowboys, outlaws, police, militaries, and so forth. And so I have to believe it will also work just as well for the battle-hardened millennial ninjas of today. Most of these holster experts don't even mention leather holsters, and that's because they haven't been able to fabricate some kind of deceitfully negative angle against them. Although in one particular video I just recently watched regarding this topic, the host came up with a negative on leather holsters that kind of confused me. He said that the leather portion covering the trigger guard, right in here, the leather portion of it, would always become flared out or bent away from the trigger guard. I personally have never seen that happen, and I'll tongue punch Nancy Pelosi right in her fart box if this host has half of the experience I've had around leather holsters. Those holsters are all double stitched and molded or form fitted. They're not going to give. Now, if you're using a cheap ass $19 leather holster, then yeah. But that doesn't happen with any high quality leather holster. To me it's very clear that these Kydex kids are convinced that any holster that isn't a Kydex type of holster is a piece of garbage, because anything not Kydex is just not cool. And that's really all it comes down to, the cool factor. That's the bottom line. I'd be willing to bet an entire paycheck that none of these internet Kydex kids have ever used anything but Kydex holsters in their life, all right? Yet they want to come off as some sort of expert in the matter. Well, let me insert some truths here right quick. Okay, this Serpa holster. Alright, it's biased as hell to trash this holster simply based on a single example, or even 2 or 3 examples, of untrained idiots causing harm through their own negligence. They are just fine as long as you have an IQ higher than a rock. Put the blame where it belongs. It's not a design flaw, it's a user flaw. And yes, I've heard the argument, but if you get into a fight and go to the ground, grit or something could possibly get into the release mechanism and block it, and you won't be able to pull it out. Well, yeah, that is possible, but, you know, it's also possible to walk around the corner of an aisle in Walmart too quickly and accidentally run your crotch right into the face of a transvestite circus midget. But what are the chances of either one of those things really happening? All right, nylon holsters. Listen, they are much, much better today than they've ever been. Now, as with any type of holster, there are some cheap, poor quality nylon holsters out there. But most nylon holsters today are long-lasting, durable, extremely comfortable, and they don't mar the finish on your gun or cause holster wear. They are very quiet on the draw. You don't have that loud, irritating clackety-clack sound you get from the Kydex Plastic Fantastic holsters. And, you know, many of them are washable, and most of them are inexpensive. Most are also able to accommodate more than just one type of pistol. But if you're one of those that, people that think that it's got to be an exact mold of your specific type of pistol, and that's okay, then there are several brands of nylon molded holsters with plastic inserts for your specific pistol. Now, in my opinion, these holsters are far superior to any Kydex holsters. And lastly, well, maybe not lastly, but shoulder rigs. Look, there's not a damn thing wrong with carrying a pistol this way. It's been proven to work just fine for many decades now, and there have been no issues when used by competent people. As I said earlier, cops have been using shoulder rigs daily for over a century without problems. And personally, I have always preferred either a good leather, or a good nylon holster. I've never been a fan of the Kydex type holsters at all, and yes, I have carried them before. They're far too noisy, the screws always seem to loosen, and they were far too uncomfortable for me to wear back when I could wear a holster. And man, I hated that clackety-clack sound that you got anytime you drew the gun or holstered the gun. I just couldn't stand that noise. You know, if I can hear it, everybody else around me can hear it, and I don't want them to hear me doing anything. All right, retention level. I also don't like passive retention holsters that use only friction, like the way Kydex holsters do. I want some kind of positive mechanical release, such as a thumb brake, a release button, or something like that. If you can easily snatch your gun out of your holster, don't you think anyone else can do that too? Don't you think they can come up behind you and snatch your gun out of your holster? And despite what many people like to say, and many people like to believe, the fact is that gun thefts from the holster has happened and still does happen. And there is plenty of proof of that. Listen, if a bad guy will attempt to take a gun from the holster of a cop, what makes you think he won't try it with you? Now, in the end, though, you know, holster selection and use is largely just a personal preference. It really doesn't matter what type of holster you use or what the material is, because these days, most of them are all good, and most of them work just fine. Just make certain that it is of high quality and you practice with it. I can't state that enough. You have to practice with that holster. Now, there are a couple of important things I want you to keep in mind here when selecting a holster. Make sure your holster is designed in such a way as to allow you to get a good, solid master grip on your pistol, because that may be the only grip you're able to get. So make sure it's a good one. Make sure you can get up high on it. Okay? You don't want anything to interfere with that at all. A proper grip begins in the holster. All right, make damn sure the holster covers the trigger guard completely. Okay? You shouldn't be able to wedge anything down into that trigger guard at all. The holster should be kept in close up against your body. And whether it's in the waistband or outside the waistband, make sure the holster is positively secured in place with no chance of holster migration. This is critical. You don't want that holster to move around or shift. If you put it in a 3 o'clock position, it better stay in that 3 o'clock position all day. It shouldn't migrate to the 4 o'clock position by itself or through your activities. It should stay right there. Again, that's critical. So to sum this up, as long as you're competent in using holsters, meaning you keep your trigger finger where it should be, there is nothing at all wrong with nylon holsters. There is nothing wrong with a Serpa holster. There is nothing wrong with leather holsters, and there's nothing wrong with a shoulder rig. So, please don't fall into the dangerous and ridiculous habit of following popular trends and ridiculous beliefs and listening to unqualified internet experts. Use common sense and logic instead, and listen to the voice of experience rather than the voices of amateurs who simply repeat other amateurs. Well, I hope this cleared up a few things for you and, gave you some insight to the holster selection process. It can be daunting. So thanks for watching. I'm Antonius, and I'm shooting it straight with you. Ciao.